Now, today I'll be doing something pretty stupid. I'll be eating the Cyan carrier into the Kalevala Expanse. Now, it should be technically impossible to get a capital ship over there because the maximum ship tonnage limit is a battleship, and I believe that there is no Kalevala Expanse system that allows capitals to get in. And I believe there is no filament that can transport a capital ship, but you know that's not going to stop me from getting there with this thing. I have means to cross the boundaries, as they say. Nonetheless, this is the carrier that I'll be using. This is the build. I'm not going to be using any special module or anything like that. It's going to be a default Cyan carrier with some cheap modules. I mean, in general, it's a very cheap build. The only thing is, I guess the only thing that's going to be new here is the afterburner. As I also want to open the boxes, and I want to show you some of the loot that you can expect there. Although, based on the Ashmo video and based on what we have seen before, you can expect some blueprints and new module blueprints, materials and stuff like that. Overall, some good juicy stuff that currently is valued a lot. Now, it's not going to the ship is not going to be equipped with any nanocore. Again, I'm going with a naked ship because I know that it's not going to have the highest DPS, but I also don't want to do something that's borderline impossible. So I'm going to fly the most average looking Cyan that you can find. I know some of you guys have higher DPS and a much better Cyan, but this is something that I would say might be around the average performing Cyan carrier that's currently out there. One thing that's not average, of course, is the implant. I'll be using the aerospace tech, the implant, and here you can take a look at the general units that I'll be using. In the end, I mean, you can use any unit that you like. I leave that up to player preference. I personally like to go for maximum possible DPS and tank, but you can also do other utility if you like. Again, that's totally up to the player to decide. And this is basically the implant layout that I'll be using with this ship. 10,000, well, or 11,000 DPS, should have about 17,000 DPS when everything is running, which is obviously not the highest DPS output, but it should definitely get the job done. I have seen some of you guys have like a 40,000 DPS Cyan, which is very scary. And yeah, obviously my DPS here is nowhere near the maximum possible DPS that is actually available on this ship, and a lot of players have much higher DPS than I have right now. So you can expect let's say you can expect a mostly default experience or default clear time from this Cyan carrier. And well, here we are in the Kalevala Expanse system. 12 kilometer is the fighter orbit, and we are going to the large Wayseeker Centrum. Now, the Centrum Anomalies are very interesting. I like them. One thing that I kind of don't like is that they are just so beefy. They're not doing much damage to your ship. Their damage output isn't really anything impressive, but they sure are tanky. They have a lot of hit points. And if I have any complaints, it's probably the fact that they're just way too tanky. I would definitely reduce their overall health by about 20-30%. Although they're also not really designed to be doable. Well, you can do them solo easily with a small ship. In the small and medium, you can clear them with a cruiser or even a frigate. You should be able to. Although, again, it is mostly recommended to go here with a group if you want to do the Centrum Anomalies. You can find some good stuff even in the normal anomalies, but the Centrum Anomalies carry the most interesting stuff. And that's a battleship, okay, and a cruiser. Now, the question: how tanky is this battleship? My friends did eat their ships over here once, and they got torn to shreds by the battleship. Although I haven't asked them how much tanky it was. They said that it was. I mean, they didn't have proper build for this region. For this region, you want to have a tanky ship. Over here, tank is the way. Honestly, tank is definitely the way, since these things that do last a long and do last a while, and you want to out tank them. Now, this is a carrier, by the way, and look at how much damage I'm doing to the armor. And surprisingly, these ships are actually armor tanks. I looked at them, and they are armor tanks. Very interesting. I actually expected them to be shield tanks, but these drones here are armor tanks. And please do tell me in the comments down below if they have always been a armor tank, since I was almost 1000% sure that at one point the drones were shield tanked. No idea why. Maybe I just confused something. It's quite likely that I also played EVE Online lately a lot, so maybe I'm just confusing two things here. But I was 100% convinced that these things were primarily shield tanks, not armor tanks. So I don't know what happened there, but they're shield. They're armor tanks. So they have tough armor, and they have the lowest resistance hull on thermal. So you want to use thermal fighters, thermal drones, and in general weapons that do thermal damage will technically do really good here. That's their lowest resistance. It's not, you know, too low. I mean, 1.5% difference between the second lowest resistance value on the drones. So, but if you want that extra 1.5% damage done on them, then yeah, you should go with thermal weapons and basically thermal fighters or drones or similar. I will also go here with a super capital next time, just for the lols. I really want to see how a super capital would do here, although I can say a super capital is probably overkill for these anomalies, or maybe not. We will find out, I guess, in one of the next videos. But man, that battleship is tanky. That took a while to kill. I have a 16,000 DPS, and it still took a while to kill it. They're not doing too much damage on my ship here, so I mean, it is obviously in capital ship standards. It is not that tanky, although the current tank on this thing is kind of comparable to the full chunk tank on a navy battleship when it comes to overall resistance to hit point value. They have a lot of hit points, but the resistance isn't that high, so you can expect about the same survivability with this build as a super chunk navy battleship. So this is about the same damage that would take if I were here with a navy. One of the things that I have to test out as well in one of the next videos. But yeah, they're really not doing too much damage. If you have a good tank, you will be good. The problem is to kill them on time and to kill them in a decent time frame. The reward here is really high. The reward is really, I mean, I have no complaints about the reward. It's fantastic, honestly. You can get modules that are like 1 billion each worth, or even more. I actually forgot to check the market prices. I remember I say 1 billion because last time I checked it was like 10 billion, and that was a month ago. So maybe the price went down a bit, so I just said 1 billion as a lowest possible estimate. Could be higher than that, most likely is higher than that, so you can really make a lot of ISK from the new region if you know how and if you know where to look. And my job here is to basically show you where the gold is located at. The Centrum Anomalies are pure gold. It is very hot, very dangerous though. It is very dangerous, but the reward is, honestly, the reward to risk is really good here. And if you have a good fleet, good group, you can go here and you can make a decent ISK value when you get out of the Kalevala Expanse. Of course, getting out is a problem. I would say if you go with a fleet here, prioritize that the guy who loots the wrecks, the guy who carries the loot, gets out first. You don't want to let the loot guy behind, because you know that's where the gold is at, in their cargo hold, right? So you want to make sure that the guy who is looting, that they get out first. Don't be selfish when it comes to trying to get out. So getting out here is kind of not exactly a problem. I mean, you have to share those escape needles, those escape filaments, you have to basically, you know, share, and you have to make sure the whole fleet at least gets one of those needles to jump out. And you can get those needles in the other anomalies easily, but you know, if you're in a fleet, you want to make sure that you also ensure that the whole fleet, your whole crew, does get out on time. And I kind of like that. I mean, teamwork. EVE is all about teamwork. It's a game meant to be played with other players, with other people. So if you are already good with the teamwork aspect, if you have a good group, this is going to be pure gold. I'm just saying that. And of course, when it comes to fleet composition, maybe one tank. If you want, let's say you want to clear this fast, right? You need to have a loggy, you need to have a tank or someone that's very tanky, and the rest can be DPS. And you should be good. Just make sure that the tank gets the aggro, the loggy does repair the tank, and the DPS ships keep doing the DPS, and honestly, it is not a big issue. This works with frigates, this works with destroyers, this works with cruisers, this works with battlecruisers, this works with battleships, this works with all ship classes, since every ship class has their own loggy ship. Even frigates have logistics, so they will be useful for this. As for solo, well, even a CN carrier does take a while for the large one, obviously. I mean, again, this is about the average DPS outputs that a CN carrier will get, minus the 45 level implant. That's the only thing that's not average right now, is the implant. Everything else on the ship is pretty average. I could use offense fighters, but they're expensive, and I know a lot of you guys don't use them, although some of you do use them. I've seen offense fighters out there, but you know, I want to keep the ship as cheap as possible, so the build shown here is mostly, I say mostly affordable, because the implant is not easily affordable, and I hate the fact that the implants are so expensive. If I have any complaint about, if I can complain about anything, it's the price on some of the items in the game. Way too expensive, way too stupid how something works, and I think we can all agree to that, obviously. Anyway, that afterburner though, it feels so weird using this thing with an afterburner. I mean, it's slow regardless. It's slow regardless. Afterburner or not, it's a capital. It's not going to break any speed records, obviously, but it makes looting a bit easier. And I will skip the whole looting part later, because man, let me tell you, it will take a while for me to loot the box. It will take a while. Technically, you don't even have to loot with this ship. If you have another ship that can loot for you, that's going to solve the problem. Basically, that also goes back to the idea of having a fleet for this region, because you know, you can have one guy loots, and everyone else just, you know, keeps doing the DPS. I'm pretty happy with the Kalevala Expanse. I'm pretty happy with most of it. There are things that I don't like. For example, again, I mentioned the tank on these things. It's way too tanky. It takes way too long to complete if you want to go solo. But more or less, even if I include that, it's still a pretty decent addition to the game. And overall, I'm pretty happy with the outcome of the Kalevala Expanse. I would say better than what we had so far. It's honestly, I kind of like the focus on smaller ships. I'm all in for that. And the future wormhole space will probably be very similar to what we have here, just with different anomalies and with different ship types. And guess what? I'll be able to live in the wormhole space in this game quite comfortably, since it will have stuff for all ship classes. And guess what? I'm all in for that as well. It will be quite the, I guess it will be quite the journey. I'm just waiting for the, let me tell you, I'm just camping for that release. The second I see the announcement for that, oh man, you don't know how happy I'll be. And I think a lot of other players will also be happy when they see the wormhole announcement. Well, when that happens. In this year, 100%, this year will be very big for the game. And well, it should be very big, but anything can happen. as we have already experienced, anything can happen. And we are just waiting to see when stuff will be added. Well then, this is definitely taking a longer. This is taking longer than it took me with the Ashmu. Not that it's way too long. I mean, but you can kind of estimate the time that it will take for your ship to clear this if you were here solo. It's kind of easy to do an estimate since you can calculate the time that it took me with 60 and 70,000 DPS to clear this, and then you can basically apply that to just a little equation, and then you will see how much time it would take, how much average time it would take for a ship with a different DPS output to clear the first room. Now, the Anomaly here has a lot of rooms, as we have seen last time, and last time when I was here with the Ashmu, I was running around for 2 hours clearing stuff. That's just how long it is. It really took me a lot, and I still didn't reach to the end. As you progress through the gates, at one point you will face some buffs and debuffs, basically. And if you get scanned, if you are like 20 floors down the road, if you get scanned inside, you are pretty safe, since it will take the guy who scanned you down, it will take for them like solid 10 minutes to get to your position, and depending on the ship that they're flying. And you also can have a scanner. You can see if someone is approaching you, since there is so many rooms. And they also have to take the right gate, by the way, since you have 3 different gates, 3 different routes, and that also does branch even more down the road. If you are very deep inside of these anomalies, and if someone does scan you down, you're actually surprisingly pretty safe, since they can't land on top of you. They will land on the acceleration gate, and then they have to actually find which one is the right gate. So, ironically, how dangerous, ironically, it is very dangerous to be here, but at the same time, if you're down the road in those acceleration gates, if you're very far from the entry, you should be pretty good, since it will take a while for someone to find you. And if you have a scanner, if you can see who's around, you can actually see if they're coming towards you. So you have a lot of time to escape, and you have a lot of time to basically jump out of the system with a escape nil drag. And I like that. It is not easy to find. It is not easy to pinpoint a target down when they are very, very far inside of those Centrum Anomalies. Maybe something cloaked can creep up on you eventually if you can see that someone is approaching you. But in a normal situation, if there is a fleet and if they are hunting around, if you have a red scanner, you can easily just see them, and if you see them approaching you, time to go. It will be time to go. And that works with any ship, basically, if it has enough slots for a scanner. And really, it really sucks that the medium slots are not as popular. When I say popular, it really sucks that not a lot of ships have a lot of medium slots, so you have to sacrifice the scanner for something else. 4 medium slots or more, I would say 4 is minimum, but 5 or more would be ideal with the current way the game is constructed. When and if we do get a D scan, that will be different. A scan that just allows you to see what's around you will be very helpful for this space. And honestly, if there is something that we need right now, I would say it is a directional scanner, because at the moment, if you don't have a scanner, you are blind in space. You can't really see anything around you, and the red scanner does eat 1 medium slot, and in some cases that 1 medium slot is going to be crucial for something else. So something that can allow us to scan our surrounding, but something that's not going to give you, a scan down location, basically a D scan in short, would be very helpful in the Kalevala Expanse, since obviously it is quite a burden to just carry around a red scanner just to see who's around you. Or you don't even see what's around you. You see a signature. You don't really see the ship type. Or you see a signature, could be anything. I mean, it could be a frigate. You can kind of differentiate between a frigate, cruiser, battlecruiser, and things like that. smaller signatures with more signals, basically smaller ship. If it's only one signature, big ship. So yeah, it can give you an estimate on what you can expect, although you also can tamper with that if the ship that you're scanning has rigs that mask the signature, then a battleship can appear as a frigate as well. It's possible to do that, and some players have a build like that. That means you can't really know what's around you exactly. You can, but even that is not, you know, guaranteed that it's the ship or the ship class that you think it is. So something that's going to tell you, like a D-scan, what's around you, would be very, very helpful. No idea if that's in the works. I mean, there's a lot of things that are in the works, probably, that we don't know of yet. I mean, that's just how development goes, but a D-scan or something similar to that would be very, very much welcomed, since that's one of the things that we miss in the game, and would make... I mean, it's very important, right? Right now, over here in those unknown systems, in the Kalevala Expanse or Cobalt Edge, a scanner is extremely important. It's your eyes and ears, basically. If you have no scanner, you're doomed. You are doomed. You'll be jumped or you'll be stuck eventually, if you have no scanner, if you go here. So a scanner is a must. No scanner, no eyes and no ears. So, and I know some of you have like alts that are specialized for it, and honestly, because of the way how the game works, a alt with scanners is one way to do it. I mean, that alt is basically acting like your D-scan in a way. Although, an alt is putting more stress on your device, or basically you have to operate two devices or a single device with a emulator on top of it. So, yeah, not exactly what I would say the most convenient thing to do. I mean, I can run about 20 instances of this game on this device that I currently have, but can you imagine the mess on the screen that it will make? I have the desktop mode. I can just plug the phone into a monitor, plug in keyboard and mouse, and basically it can act like a desktop easily. But yeah, not the most comfortable way to you know, to just scan around with that with that, you know, with that setup. But regardless of regarding how the CN performs here, I'm mostly happy with the performance. A little bit surprised at how tanky these things are. I mean, that battleship takes a year to kill. Even with my DPS, it takes me a while to kill the battleship. So hopefully this does kind of give you a insight on what to expect from the tankiness of these ships. Now this is a large Centrum. If you take a battleship, if you take a battlecruiser, it will most likely yeet you over here in the large Kalevala region systems for large ships, basically for large ships. So this is basically what you can expect over here from the Centrum Anomaly. They're not doing too much damage. You need to have a tank though. I mean, having no tank here is kind of a death sentence. Not because of the ships here, but because of players as well. Players are the most, well, not problematic, but player ships are basically the, you know, the highest threat here is a other player. The pirate ships here, the NPC ships, aren't much of a problem. Very easy to deal with them. They're just very tanky, and it takes a couple of years to kill them, but you know, I mean, it's not a big problem. Other players could be a problem, and in order to counter them, most of them will have a DPS build. So if you have a good tank, you'll probably beat a high DPS ship. When I say probably, depends. I mean, a lot of factors have to be included. Timing is the most important factor. If you already used your damage control, then you will be fighting them without a damage control. But I would say try to save the damage control for when you actually need the damage control. Unless you're a navy where you can just spam that thing, and you know, if you have like 95% like my ship, then using the damage control is basically using any other module. I like to actively use the damage control. The second I use it, because it just helps a lot with the damage reduction, and I mean, I'm like 50% shield, my damage roll is already up again, and by the time I'm 50% shield on my navy, the enemy is already in hull. Basically, that's just the level of tank that I have on that thing. So if you have something extremely tanky, then over here that extremely tanky thing will have very good use. Can you make something very tanky and cheap? Yes, we can easily. It doesn't have to be integrated trunk. I mean, you can make a cheap integrated trunk build. Of course, my integrated trunks are definitely not cheap. And if you don't want to spend, or if you are, you know, if you really don't want to spend like 50 billion on a ship, don't do the same integrations that I did on my navies, because right now I have problems selling those ships, because each one of these ships is worth like a carrier in terms of how much integrations are put into them. So yeah, kind of understandable why no one wants to buy them. No one wants to fly something that's a kidney worth of rigs inside. Although they are very tanky ships, I have absolutely no complaints about their tank. They're doing exactly what I designed them to do, and they are probably one of the tankiest battleships in the game right now. They're just, I bricked those ships through the roof, and a brick they will stay for now, at least until someone wants to buy them. I don't want to destroy the rigs. I don't want to pull out the rigs. It costs a lot, and even if I do pull out the rigs, it's a question if someone wants to buy them, if someone wants to buy the ship. So I don't know if someone wants to buy my boats. I guess do tell me on Discord. I don't know, man. I'm kind of giving up on the idea of selling my navies, since no one wants to buy those ships. No one wants to buy them anyway, so I guess at the end I might end up keeping them. So, am I happy with the Cyan carrier? Well, it's definitely an odd thing to see. I mean, seeing a Cyan carrier in Kalevala Expanse is as rare as seeing a purple elephant. So, definitely interesting to see how the ship performs here. Obviously it is performing well. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect anything else. It's a carrier, it has a lot of DPS, and it is in a system that's not meant for this ship. It's kind of, you know, it's larger than the Anomaly is intended for, or should I say, the ship class is not for this system. It's for battleships, battlecruisers, not for battleships, not for carriers. So I kind of expect it to run well. One thing that I did not expect is to see these things being so tanky, to the point where, you know, makes me think that a carrier would be a good choice for solo here, although obviously you can't go with a carrier over here, to my knowledge. And I would say the large one, while it is possible to run it solo, definitely, I mean, it's obviously not impossible to run this solo. It will take a long time to complete. So, my honest advice: if you want to go into the large one, into the large systems here, bring a logi, bring a tank, and bring DPS. A small 5-member fleet should be more than enough to simply clear this without a problem. And honestly, it should be absolute no problem with a decent fleet composition. So that was a little nice run with the Cyan carry into the new region. Odd ship to use there, yes, but I was very curious, and you guys were also curious to see how it will perform. Now let me dock this thing, and I'll just quickly show some of the loot that I got. I mean, the loot over there is really good. The loot is fantastic. There we go, some new modules, blueprints, materials, and this is just from one box. My electricity for some reason went down, power outage, so couldn't really continue being there for a longer period of time, because my battery was already running low, and have to now charge the device until I have to charge when the power comes back on. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, play safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.